quick disclaimer before we start. This video is commentary and opinion analyzing public rumors and reports. Many of the claims we're discussing are unverified. Treat them as allegations unless confirmed by reputable sources. Cool? Let's go. So the story thundering around is simple on the surface. Prince William walks into Clarence's house, says enough is enough, and Camilla's out. Staff gone, access cut, titles erased, and the gates clanging shut behind her by nightfall. Add a twist about secret documents and a Regency power play, and you've got the internet's favorite genre, palace thriller with a Diana-sized shadow over every scene. It hits every pressure point: legacy, loyalty, succession, and the idea that William is finally drawing a hard line. No wonder people can't stop sharing it. But even the best-told story deserves a reality check. In the real world, the British monarchy doesn't do revolution by whisper. It does paperwork. If you've followed the royals for any amount of time, you know the language of change: official statements, gazette notices, letters patent, court circular adjustments. When someone loses a title or gains one, when a household is created or dissolved, there's a paper trail. That's not scandal. That's centuries of habit. So if the claim is that Camilla, the sitting queen consort, was stripped and exiled in 24 hours by the heir, you should expect something public, formal, and undeniable. As of today, that something isn't there. Now, why is this rumor so sticky? 3 reasons. First, Diana's legacy. You cannot separate William from Diana's story. For years, the public has watched him navigate duty with a quiet, careful dignity, and for a lot of people, the idea that he finally said, "This is for my mum," is emotionally satisfying. Second, Camilla's long arc, from the woman blamed for breaking a fairy tale to the woman wearing the crown, has never been accepted by everyone. The internet loves a reversal, especially one that feels like cosmic justice. Third, and maybe most important, the modern monarchy is in a delicate season. Health questions swirl, succession conversations simmer, and the institution knows it must protect trust. In that environment, every whisper feels 10 times louder. Let's talk about the alleged Regency power play. The claim is that Camilla quietly lobbied to influence the Regency Council, reworking duties and ceremonial roles to shrink William and Catherine's influence and expand her own. If that were true, that would be explosive. But here's the thing, if you're moving chess pieces that big, it is very hard to keep fingerprints off the board. Reassignments, patronages, orders of precedence, they leave trails and schedules, in court circulars, in briefing notes that leak. We're not seeing those trails. What we are seeing is a lot of breathless storytelling and a few documents we don't actually have in front of us. That doesn't prove it didn't happen. It does mean we should file it under unverified and move on with care. Now picture the confrontation scene being shared. William, usually composed, letting the anger bleed through, calling Camilla a stain on Diana's memory, and ordering the palace machine to spin. It's powerful writing. It's also the exact kind of detail rumor culture loves, because you can't disprove the tone of a private voice in a private room. What you can do is look for the ripple. If someone of Camilla's rank lost access in a day, you'd expect security redeployments, staff movements, and diary changes to leak across tabloid, broadsheet, and royal watcher ecosystems fast. You'd also expect competing palace sources to start pushing back to protect reputations. So far, the noise is all one-sided and very convenient for the narrative. And what about King Charles, cornered, forced to choose between son and wife? The father-son tension has always been a subplot in royal storytelling, but remember the order here. In the British system, the sovereign's will is the engine. William is the heir, not the boss. Could William deliver a blunt ultimatum behind closed doors? Sure. Could Charles weigh the optics and decide to make changes? Of course. But a unilateral move by the heir to remove the queen consort would break not just etiquette, but the storytelling logic the palace lives by. Stability first. If such a thing happened, it would come with a raft of official language softening the blow, temporary step back, health-related rebalancing, streamlining of duties, not midnight escorts and nameplates yanked off doors in silence. Let's address the Kate angle, because that's doing numbers too. The idea that Catherine's steady hand quietly guided everything. It fits her public image. Calm, dutiful, eyes on the long game. She's the person people picture when they imagine the monarchy returning to dignity. Because of that, fan fiction, let's call it what it is, often uses her as the moral compass character. In this rumor cycle, she's cast as the quiet strategist reminding William what kind of monarchy they're building for George, Charlotte, and Louis. It's beautiful, and it might even be a fair guess about her values. But it's still reading tea leaves. Catherine's power is real, but it's reputational, not procedural. She doesn't need to raise her voice. Her silence shapes the room. That doesn't automatically mean she's orchestrating purges behind the scenes. Public reaction is the easiest part to predict because we can watch it in real time. Give the internet a clean narrative. William as protector, Camilla as overreacher, Charles as conflicted, and it will do the rest. Memes appear, old interviews get clipped, and sentiment hardens overnight. We've seen it with other royal stories. Once the crowd decides, they can turn anything into a referendum on Diana. That doesn't make the crowd wrong. It makes them human. But opinion momentum is not a substitute for evidence. Emotional truth and documented truth often walk together, but not always. Now, let's do some basic mechanics. If Camilla were out, what would that actually look like? First, calendars change. Patronages would be redistributed. You'd see charities thanking her for years of service and welcoming a new royal champion. Second, styles and titles aren't erased by rumor. They're adjusted by clear, formal steps. If there were to be any change in Camilla's style, you'd expect a palace statement and likely a legal instrument. Third, security is a matter of government as much as palace. A sudden withdrawal would not be a secret. It would be visible in convoys, in local policing, in official briefings. We don't have that visibility right now. What we do have is a very shareable story that compresses a decade of unresolved feelings into a single, cathartic night. So where might the smoke be coming from? Here's a plausible, boring, traditional explanation: internal debates over scheduling, visibility, and messaging during a sensitive period. Maybe there were firm conversations about who fronts which event, who stands where during ceremonial moments, who takes which patronages as the next generation steps forward. That is normal in every royal era. Add in the internet's appetite for hero-villain dynamics, and suddenly, where rebalancing diaries morphs into "he threw her out." The truth is, the palace would absolutely tighten optics if public trust wobbles. They've done it before. That looks like fewer photo ops, more focused causes, and a slower, steadier press machine. It does not look like a banishment with ink still wet. Let's talk about why some viewers want this to be true so badly. For many, Diana wasn't just a princess. She was a promise that the crown could be compassionate, modern, and honest. When that promise felt broken, the pain stuck. William represents a chance to keep her best qualities alive inside the institution that hurt her. So a rumor where he finally defends her legacy? That's emotional closure. But real life isn't a Netflix finale. Real life is William showing up, doing the job, prioritizing his family, and letting his work speak. That's not as cliquey, but it's the tradition that kept this institution standing through wars, abdications, tragedies, and tabloid storms. Slow, not sudden. Measured, not manic. Now, if the claim about Regency Council maneuvering shows up in your feed again, remember this: Regency frameworks are constitutional business. They're not changed by someone whispering in a hallway. They involve law, precedent, and a chorus of officials who do not move quickly or quietly. Could Camilla advocate for a role that supports the king? Absolutely. Could advisors float drafts, scenarios, or briefing notes? Also yes. But secret plan to sideline William and Catherine is the kind of phrase built to farm outrage. Until the drafts are real and public, it's just a story. Let's imagine for a moment how William would act if he truly believed the crown's moral compass was at risk. Would he march into a room and throw down? Maybe. He's his mother's son, but he's also his grandmother's student. The late Queen's playbook was simple: never complain, never explain, and when you must act, act once and act formally. William learned from that. His final move, when it comes, won't be a shout. It'll be a sentence signed, sealed, and posted for the world to see. And Camilla? Her journey has always been complicated. The public can hold two truths: that she's done steady charitable work, and that for many, the past can't be cleaned with time. If her approval dips, if schedules lighten, if the palace recalibrates her visibility, that's a strategic response to sentiment. It doesn't equal exile, People can dislike her without needing a shock and awe purge to feel heard. So here's where we land tonight. Did William deliver a final move that left Camilla? The internet sure wants it that way. But in the absence of formal signals, statements, documents, diary shifts, what we have is a cluster of allegations woven into a compelling narrative. It may be inspired by real tension. It may be fed by genuine debates inside the palace about optics and duty. And it may ultimately point to a slow pivot that puts William and Catherine even more clearly at the center. But a dramatic expulsion? As of right now, that's story, not statecraft. If you're someone who values the way things have always been done, the ceremony, the process, the weight of institutions, then you know the crown rarely answers chaos with chaos. It answers with continuity. It absorbs the storm, shortens the balcony, trims the speeches, and keeps marching. That's not as satisfying as a midnight showdown, but it's how monarchies survive centuries. Before we close, a quick checklist to keep your radar sharp as this evolves. If Camilla truly steps back, you'll see clear signals, official announcements, charity transitions, and sustained changes to her public diary. If William is asserting a new tone, you'll notice it in what he takes on, where he stands, and the words he chooses in speeches: subtle, measured, anchored in service. If the palace wants to cool the temperature, you'll feel it in the coverage. Fewer leaks, quieter summers, and a Christmas message that leans hard on duty, unity, and the next generation's role. Those are the tells. Not whispers, not anonymous documents, tells. And if none of that happens, then this rumor will pass like so many before it, loud on Monday, forgotten by Friday, leaving behind only the truth we already knew. William is building his future with Catherine, carefully and deliberately. Charles is balancing legacy with the present. And the public, still in love with Diana's memory, will always measure the crown against the standard she set: warmth, honesty, and a sense that the spotlight should serve people, not swallow them. So, exiled? As of tonight, it's a question mark, not a verdict. A headline, not a history book. We'll keep watching for the formal signals that matter. In the meantime, remember, in Windsor World, the most important moves don't happen in rumors. They happen on paper. If you appreciated the way we separated allegation from record, drop a like so more people see sober analysis instead of just the loudest rumor. And tell me in the comments, if the palace does recalibrate roles this year, what's the one change you think would rebuild the most trust with the public? I'm reading everything, respectfully, as always. Let's widen the lens and get practical for a second. When people imagine royal drama, they picture slammed doors and raised voices. When the monarchy actually moves, it's usually with gloves on. The British system was built to outlast noise. That means slow steps, signals wrapped in ceremony, and actions that look boring on the surface and seismic over time. If you ever feel lost in the rumor fog, ask one question: if this were real, how would tradition express it? The answer is almost always publicly, formally, and in orderly stages. No matter how fierce the private talk gets, the public part leaves footprints. There's another reason these stories catch fire. The characters are so familiar that our minds fill in the blanks. William is the dutiful heir with a spine of steel. Catherine is calm in a storm, the quiet anchor. Camilla carries a past that never fully fades for many people, no matter how many ribbons she cuts or causes she backs. Charles is the man in the middle, torn between love and legacy. Those archetypes are powerful. They make it easy to believe a neat, cinematic version of events. But institutions don't move like movies. They move like glaciers, slow, heavy, shaping everything in their path with pressure, not fireworks. Let's try a simple timeline test. If this final move happened the way the transcript paints it, we'd expect 3 waves. Wave 1, inside baseball, staff movements, diary pauses, a flurry of no comment, replies that feel coordinated. Wave 2, public-facing, charity updates, new patron announcements, subtle changes in who appears at what. Wave 3, formal, a crisp written statement, perhaps a short broadcast line folded into a larger message about duty, continuity, and the next generation. Even in the most dramatic version of events, the palace would stage manage this so it reads as principled, not punitive. That's the point. Monarchy equates order with legitimacy. A purge doesn't scream order. Now, about the documents, allegedly proving a Regency power play. People love a secret file. But anything touching the Regency Council isn't just palace preference. It tunnels into law and constitutional practice. You don't rewire that in the shadows with a memo and a wink. Drafts can exist. Briefings can be floated. Lawyers can doodle scenarios. That is normal. Turning those doodles into reality is another story. It requires a procession of grown-up steps that do not stay invisible. Consultations, legal reviews, and eventually something the public can point to without squinting. If that day comes, we'll all see it, because it will be designed to be seen. It's worth asking why the William threw her out storyline is so seductive. It offers a clean moral. It gives Diana's supporters the closure they never got. It lets William act like a hammer when in reality, his most effective tool is patience. And it rewards the instinct many of us have right now, to believe that only drastic moves can restore trust. But the crown has one trick it leans on across centuries: the long game. You don't have to like it to recognize its power. The long game waits out the loudest week. It prioritizes the photo next spring. It counts anniversaries, not outrage cycles. Here's another framing that helps. Think of the monarchy as a brand with a very old manual. Every crisis runs through the same checklist. Tighten the message. Clarify the faces. Reduce optional noise. Recenter the story on service, faith, children, and continuity. If a rumor swells too big to ignore, reply with something bigger but calmer. A major appearance, a charity highlight, a family image that feels steady and sane. This is Crisis Comms 101, but wearing ermine. It may not thrill comment sections, yet it works because most people want to feel like the adults are back in a room. Let's sketch 4 possible paths. Not predictions, just realistic paths rooted in how this institution usually behaves. Path A. Soft step back. Camilla's schedule gets lighter for a season. The language is respectful. Rest, health. Focus on a short list of long-held causes. No titles are touched. Public temperature drops. Over months, attention shifts. Path B. Optic shift. William and Catherine simply do more front-of-house work. They headline the photographs, deliver the key lines, and become the default image of the crown. Camilla is there, but not centered. It's quiet dominance by stage placement. Path C. Structured recalibration. Internally, some patronages move. A few ceremonial roles are reassigned to meet the needs of the modern monarchy. Everyone smiles. Everyone claps. The balance changes without anyone saying the word punishment. Path D. Status quo with trim. Nothing dramatic happens. The palace lets rumor run itself out, then marks the new season with a big, wholesome family moment. The message: tradition carries on, with fewer extras and tighter scripting. All 4 paths are more likely than a 24-hour exile, because all 4 feel like the manual. What about the idea of a Camilla tell-all? That rumor shows up whenever someone is cast as out. Could it happen? In theory, yes, people write books. But consider incentives. The most effective version of a post-royal life is low drama, high dignity. A memoir that detonates the roof might feel cathartic short-term and costly forever. The palace has long memories. So does the public. If Camilla ever chose to write, the safer bet would be a reflective, careful, charity-forward volume that stabilizes her reputation rather than blows up bridges. It's more, I supported causes and endured storms than here are the private knives. That's not juicy. It is realistic. Let's talk Kate again, because viewers keep asking, could she be the quiet architect? She doesn't need to be. Her strength is almost gravitational at this point, set by years of consistency. One of the oldest tricks in royal survival is to let the most stable figure define the tone by simply showing up as herself. Catherine does that. If there is recalibration ahead, her role won't be to pull levers behind a curtain. It'll be to stand next to William, keep the room calm, and make the future look normal. In institutions like this, normal is revolutionary. Now, a quick media literacy pit stop because you're savvy and I want you armed. Rumor mills have 3 reliable tells. First, perfect dialogue in private scenes. If you're hearing quotable lines from a conversation with 3 people and 2 of them don't leak, be suspicious. Second, all-knowing narrators who never cite anything traceable, phrases like documents reveal, without the documents. Third, timelines that move at TV speed. Lifelong roles shifted in a day. Constitutional gears rebuilt by Thursday. Real change is messier and leaves paperwork. Another question I hear, if not this, then what's actually going on? My honest take, based on years of watching how these stories evolve, is that we're probably somewhere between image management and generational transition. That looks like William and Catherine fronting more state-facing moments, trimming the balcony, emphasizing service over personality, and making the crown feel like a two-person promise rather than a sprawling family drama. Notice the verbs: fronting, trimming, emphasizing, making. Not exiling, not ousting. It's choreography, not coup. We should also respect that people aren't spreadsheets. They have hearts. If you believe Charles wrestles with guilt and loyalty, and William wrestles with duty and memory, you're probably right at a human level. But the restraint we see in public is part personal choice, part institutional demand. Royals learn young that their faces are the message. That's why the strongest responses aren't statements but frames. Who stands where, who walks in first, who accepts which patronage, who says thank you at the mic. If you want to read the tea leaves, read the frames. So, what would William's final move look like in the real world? If not this headline, it would look like a single line delivered in a formal setting, backed by action everyone can see. It might be a speech that plants the flag on integrity, service, and the next generation. It might be a patronage realignment that quietly centers the causes Diana cared about. It might be a moment where he draws a firm boundary around his wife and children, making it clear that any briefing against them is a briefing against the crown's future. That's a final move you don't need sources to believe. You'd feel it in the room. There's also the simple truth that public warmth matters. If the palace senses that one figure draws heat and another draws trust, the calendar will reflect it. Not with drama, with placement. That's how you move a monarchy. 2 inches left on the balcony, 8 more engagements over here, 1 fewer over there. A photo that says this is the center. You do that for a year, and suddenly the country thinks of the crown as William and Catherine with children. Full stop. No exile required. Just choreography and time. Now, let's address the Diana of it all with care. For so many, she is still the conscience of the crown. The desire to see her honored through decisive action is natural. But the most enduring way to honor her isn't by erasing someone in anger. It's by centering the compassion and authenticity people loved in her. That shows up in how the next generation talks to the public, the humility in their visits, the seriousness of their causes, and the absence of drama, when drama would be easy. That's a harder story to tell on YouTube, but it's the one that builds trust the old-fashioned way, by doing the work and keeping the temperature low. If you're wondering what signals to watch next, watch for repetition. 1 off is noise. 3 times is policy. If Camilla misses 1 engagement, that's life. If she misses 3 and a patronage quietly moves, that's design. If William and Catherine headline 1 big state moment, great. If they headline the next 5, welcome to the new normal. Patterns matter in royal land more than quotes. Patterns are the way tradition whispers. Pay attention. I also want to acknowledge the tenderness around Charles and William's relationship whenever stories like this break. Father and son dynamics are complicated without a crown in the middle. Add a monarchy and decades of public grief, and of course the space between them can look cold on camera. But the camera is a liar in its own way. You can fulfill a role with grace even when personal feelings are heavy. That, too, is tradition. The job is bigger than the mood. The uniform goes on. The handshake happens. The photo is taken. This isn't hypocrisy. It's the deal they inherited. Let me offer a final mental model that's kept me sane covering these arcs. Split every royal story into 3 beams. What's alleged, what's observable, and what's official. Alleged is the talk. Observable is the pattern we can see with our eyes. Appearances, absences, who stands where. Official is the paper, statements, notices, legal instruments, published schedules. You don't need to reject allegations to keep them in the alleged beam. You just hold them there until the other 2 beams light up. If they don't, you move on. If they do, you say, okay, now we're in motion, and adjust. That's why, for me, exiled stays a question mark today. There's plenty of alleged. There's not enough observable to match the drama, and there's certainly nothing official that would justify the language of banishment. I'm not dismissing the possibility that roles will shift. They always do. I'm saying the smart money is on the oldest answer in the book. The palace will choose continuity and calibration over public bloodletting, because continuity is the crown's brand and calibration is how it avoids breaking. And if you're thinking, but wouldn't a bold cleaning of house win over the public? maybe for a week. Then it sets a precedent the institution can't live with, that the loudest storm gets the biggest swing. Monarchies survive by resisting that exact bargain. They aim to be the thing that doesn't flinch, the thing you can set your watch by. That's not exciting. It's enduring. Big difference. I'll leave you with this. If William's final move is coming, it won't be an overnight eviction or a whispered decree. It'll be a visible, teachable, traditional act that says, here's who we are, here's what we value, and here's how we will behave. It will be a promise kept in public, not a rumor won in private. When that happens, you won't need me to tell you. You'll see it, because that's how they plan these things. So the message can't be missed. Until then, keep your head clear, your heart soft, and your standard high. We can love the story and still demand the paperwork. We can honor Diana's memory without cheering for chaos. We can root for William and Catherine to lead without turning every whisper into a verdict. That's the traditionalist in me talking. The part that believes the best version of the crown is the one that works quietly, serves consistently, and lets the next picture speak for itself. If this helped you breathe through the noise, hit like so people find the analysis instead of just the rumor wildfire. Drop your read in the comments. If the palace does make a measured recalibration this year, what's one concrete change you'd support and why? I'm here, I'm reading, and I'll bring your best takes into the next video so the conversation stays grounded in what we can see, not just what we can shout.